Hello, everyone. In previous installments in this series, we've had a chance to learn about some of the Rishonei Ashkenaz, the great rabbinic sages of the Middle Ages from France and from Germany. Today we're going to meet somebody who is, I think, a little bit less known, but maybe no less important. A woman named Dolce of Worms, who also died at the very tail end of the 12th century, and whose life and whose death, I think, has a lot to teach us. In order to contextualize her, though, and to understand a little bit about her significance, we need to learn a little bit about her husband, Rav Elazar ben Yehuda of Worms, sometimes known as the Rokeach. Rokeach means the perfumer, and it's the name of one of the Sfarim that he wrote during his lifetime. The Rokeach is a halachic collection, which is really important for the subsequent history of Ashkenazic Psak and Minhag. He's somebody who's a really authoritative author on halachic matters. Also a great author of mystical writings, produces a lot of really important esoteric works about Jewish theology. He writes tefillot and piyutim as well that make their way into the Siddur, into the prayer book. So a really important and sort of vaunted personality for medieval Ashkenaz. He and his family live in what are called today the Kehilot Shum. So this comprises Speyer and Mainz and Worms, right? Elazar ben Yehuda of Worms and Dolce of Worms, that's where they lived. Those three communities were sort of the heartland of Ashkenazic Torah scholarship during the Middle Ages. It's where somebody like Rashi, who was from France, would go to study. He learned in yeshiva there. So a really, really important heartland of the Ashkenazi community. And it's there in 1196 that a band of marauders broke into the home of the Rokeach and, under circumstances that are not 100% clear, killed his wife Dolce and killed two of his daughters, Belet and Chana, or maybe Anna. He and his son, the Rokeach and his son, were spared. Now, we know a little bit about this event because the Rokeach himself writes an autobiographical account of the horrible tragedy. He doesn't go into a huge amount of detail, but enough to give us sort of the bare bones account of what happened. And he expresses his tremendous sorrow that obviously he feels about the death of his family members, not only in that autobiographical account, but also in a kina, in a dirge, a liturgical poem, but of the sort that we would recite on Tisha B'Av, right? A sort of a mournful piyut that he composes in honor of his wife. And it's a fascinating piyut. It's modeled on a song that probably many of us know, Eshet Chayil Mi'imtza. So the 31st chapter of Sefer Mishlei, which many Jews have accustomed to recite on Friday night at their Shabbat table. So some of us can probably sing it already in our heads. What the Rokeach does is he takes each line of the Aleph Bet, right? Because the Eshet Chayil is arranged in the order of the Aleph Bet. And he takes the first line of each of those psukim and then fills it in a way to customize Eshet Chayil to the specific qualities that his wife Dolce possessed. So for example, Eshet Chayil Mi'imtza, who can find a woman of valor? And then he continues, Ateret Ba'ala Bat Nedivim, she was her husband's crown, the daughter of aristocrats, Isha Yirat Hashem, a God-fearing woman, Amehulelet B'Ma'aseh HaTovim, who was known and renowned for her good deeds. And then he goes on to the next line, Batach Ba'alev Ba'ala, her husband trusts her, Hechilato, Hilbashto, Bechavod, she would feed him and clothe him in a respectful manner, in a dignified manner, and so on and so forth. And it goes on through the entire sort of Aleph Bet of Eshet Chayil, filling it in a way customized to her specific qualities. And those first two lines, I think, are a little bit generic and align maybe with what we would think of as the domestic virtues that a spouse might have. So she is sort of his ezer kenegdo. She's there to support him and to feed him and to engage in all of the sort of domestic tasks that make his life as a rabbi, as a teacher, as a Rosh Yeshiva possible. But really interestingly and surprisingly, as it goes on, we learn much more about her own independent spiritual life in a way that's actually not fully reliant upon or dependent upon her supportive role as the husband of the Rokeach. So we learn that she goes to shul early and leaves late, and while she's there, she leads davening for the women. That is to say, she's there helping to teach and helping to guide women, right? If we can imagine in Ezrat Nashim, in a women's section, which is a little bit separate from the main male part of the sanctuary, she is there helping to facilitate everyone's davening, helping to make sure that they can pray in an appropriate way. She, in addition to feeding him and his talmidim and running the household, is also a professional woman who helps support the household through money lending, which is a very common Jewish profession in this time, but also through sewing threads to be used for tefillin, through mending sifrei Torah. He says that she, over the course of her life, would repair no less than 40 Torah scrolls, sifrei Torah, in the community. She would help to produce tzitzit. In other words, there's a whole religious life that is independent to her, and where she's able to express her connection to her religious community, not only as a member of his family, but also through producing ritual objects, through leading people in prayer, through being really a religious leader in her own right. And if we can think about this power couple, so to speak, of Elazar ben Yehuda the Rokeach, Rav Elazar of Worms, and Dolce, each of them in complementary but also in distinctive kinds of ways, helping to further their religious values and helping to further the sort of spiritual fulfillment of their Jewish community. And then we're able, in a really sort of poignant and stirring, but of course also very tragic way, to see how the Rokeach himself reflects on that, on those values and on that mission and on the accomplishments of his wife during her very short, abbreviated lifetime, in a way that makes her the sort of paragon, the epitome of the Eshet Chayil. So in a way, a real Jewish love story from the Middle Ages. We don't often learn very much about the loving relationship between rabbinic spouses, but this is a very, very stirring example. And in her death, we're able, or really only because of her death, we're able to get this glimpse through the piyut of everything that she accomplished. And I think it was meant to serve, and certainly over the course of the last 800 years or so, it has served as a kind of a stirring example, as a set of values and accomplishments that all of us, in whatever kinds of ways, can connect to and hopefully imitate at any time of the year, but maybe especially during this auspicious time of the year in our lead up to Tisha B'Av. Take care, everyone.